What's going on, guys? We are back. You can see we're in the new apartment, the new office. Still not fully done. I'm trying to counter the reverb by hanging more stuff up. I've got a rug coming in this week, hopefully, and a little bit more improvements here and there as far as like video and sound quality. But for now, I wanted to get this video out because I see a lot of YouTubers right now posting on, you know, play Droll, play DD Crow, play Bistio, play whatever, as far as like what the meta is looking like, because by now we get a good idea that Mitsurugi Rizal is the best deck in the room. Malice players suck. Just kidding. No one has been able to get a win with a Malice, which is funny to me because the deck's really good, but it just takes a good pilot to keep, you know, going on to that next level. But I want to take this video to talk about how to improve at Yu-Gi-Oh further, because like with the White Forest deck, a lot of people dog on it. It's not the best deck in the room, and I don't think it is, but that doesn't mean it's not a good deck. You know, you got decks like Mermel, Branded, even Tenpai still, Sky Striker. You can get wins, and I believe that Yu-Gi-Oh is 50% luck, 50% skill, right? That 50% skill goes into deck building. What hand traps are you taking? What tech choices are you taking? And, you know, I just want to talk about the things that the other YouTubers are not talking about. And some of it might seem kind of like obvious, but when you break it down, people really don't dig into it deep enough. So the first thing I want to talk about is to learn your own deck. Know how your deck is inside and out. Things you can do, things you can't do. You know, how to set up a half board, how to set up a full board. You know, if you know your opponent doesn't have Nair or Droll, or you have Crossout Designator and Called By and you're safe and you've got full combo, you know, what does your most powerful board look like? Like, how far can you take it? And I know that kind of sounds obvious, but some people really don't take the time to learn their own deck. They just kind of like, well, I guess this is all I can do. And I don't know how many times it's come up where they're like, oh man, I could have done this and I had this interaction, or, you know, I forgot about this. It's like, take the time to learn your deck, know what it does, know everything you've got available to you, given your hand, of course, and learn, you know, where to kind of bait stuff. You know, if you know your hand can play through an Ash and you have two things that can get ashed, well, what would you rather have ashed? You know, take the time to, you know, if your normal summon, it doesn't matter if it gets negated, then cool. But if your normal summon is your better option and then you have a spell or something else that searches or does something, you know, maybe start with that. So I'm not saying to slow play. Obviously, I think everyone should be allowed to take the amounted time necessary to kind of look at your hand, realize, okay, strategy, what am I going against? You know, if it's game 2 against Malice, you know, what do they have? Do I need to play around Droll, Nib, Chummies, so on? But going on with that is, I think a lot of people also need to learn that their decks may not benefit as much from hand traps. Ergo, the White Forest deck that I have, I didn't use imperms during the regional, and I didn't miss imperm because we had board breakers. We had other ways to get more mileage, if not the same amount of mileage, if I was playing imperm with other cards. And I think that's what makes Yu-Gi-Oh very interesting, is that cards that were printed 10-15 years ago are still available if they're not banned or limited in any way. So there's a lot of cards out there, and you might find some unique interactions with some older cards. The older cards being more of the generics. So if you want to make like dinosaurs really work, hey, maybe there's a card that came out in 2012 or, you know, whenever, that really just was like, if I compare this with this end board, it is just an extra piece of interaction that my opponent's gonna have to deal with. So And then learning your deck, if it's more of a board breaker deck, if it's a hand trap deck, do you want to go first? Do you want to go second? Because if your deck is strong or like okay going first and you kind of feel like it's better going second, maybe take the time to look at your deck overall and be like, you know, if I throw in super polys, if I throw in lava golems, you know, whatever the case might be, even these dark rulers into the main deck, you know, if you win or lose die roll, you have the option that you will go second. So there is that benefit. Maybe you build your deck going second and all you're going first is in your side, or, you know, whatever. Just take a look at your deck and realize, what can I do and what's its strong suit? What is it weak against? And that brings me to my next topic, is learning other people's decks. You know, it's one thing to know what your deck does, but if you have a full board of like Omni Negates, Book of Moons, negation here, target pop here, bounce here, but you don't know what your opponent is doing, let alone their strategy, then you're gonna lose no matter what. I don't know how many times in the regional people had to read my cards and they were like, you know, I know what the old White Forest stuff does, but all this new stuff, I have no idea. And I'm like, cool, my benefit, because you don't know my strategy. You don't know the end board I'm going for. You don't know a lot of what I'm trying to do here, and that's benefit to me because I had people nib me at the wrong times, and I was like, perfect. It's either too late because I already had my Omni out, or if my board got nibbed here, it didn't even matter because I could still keep going. I still had all the engine in the world. You gave me a token, cool. I can bring some pieces back. It's all good. So, you know, if you have the time, you know, talk to your friends. If not, you know, there's Omega, there's Dueling Book, locals, learn what other people's decks do. And in Omega, what I do is I'll kind of import like a deck like Regenesis or Mitsurugi Rizal, and I'll play the deck myself to kind of see what the purpose of the deck does, what cards do what are all the options for, you know, that card's activation, what are they going to want to search. And it kind of gives me a feel of like, okay, I have one Ash Blossom and that's it. I got to make it count. What's going to get me the most mileage? What's going to hurt the most? Because like I said, if you've got a couple cards in your hand starting and you're like, okay, if my normal summon gets stopped, it doesn't matter because the card I'm searching is in my hand. You know, it's like, again, just where do I want to interact with my opponent with the cards and deck that I have? So if you know their strategy and you know what they're going for, and you know where to interact and stop them, that's benefit to you because now you know how to really control the game, go to your turn, you know, push for damage, whatever deck you're playing, control, OTK, whatever. So there's that. Learn other decks, learn their strategies, learn what their cards do, and that's just going to make you even better. And then I want to talk about tech choices. I know a lot of people are saying right now, you got to play the Holy Trinity. You got to play Talent, Call By, and Crossout. Well, I only played Call By and Talent because Crossout, I don't play that many Crossout targets. And I also play Salesman, which, you know, is not a better Crossout, but I just like it for the mileage I get from Salesman. You know, Salesman just being that unique card of going first, going second. So therefore, I don't want to play the Holy Trinity, but some of these YouTubers will tell you, you have to play the Holy Trinity. Like, there's no reason not to. And, you know, that might be good for like 70, 80% of the decks, but it's not for everyone. Especially if you're wanting to, you know, play an underdog deck like myself, or, you know, just play something for fun, and, you know, you need to properly deck build that deck, then you don't want to just shove 3 Imperm, 3 Ash, Holy Trinity in there, and, you know, shove all this garbage in there that doesn't work for you, but there's other options that might work even better for you, like Black Goat Laughs. Black Goat Laughs is a really good card for the White Forest deck because I can do so many things with it. If I draw it and I set it, I can pitch it to have it in the graveyard at any point. Salesman being another spell or trap that I can, or being another spell that I can pitch, for LZ effect, for that Bell's effect. There's a lot of interactions there, so therefore those cards are more valuable to me. And what I want to talk about next is going first, going second, your side patterns. You gotta prepare for the events you're going to, right? So if all you're gonna do is go to locals, learn what your locals is. If you got a lot of Blue Eyes players, if it's a lot of meta, if it's a lot of rogue, if it's a lot of stun, just a lot of fun decks, whatever, you need to be prepared for that. You need to build your side for the event you're going to. If you're going to a regional or YCS, you got to be prepared for the best decks in the room, the common decks that everyone's going to play. But what I'm hearing people say is that, build your side for the last 5 rounds or, 6 rounds, however many, because those first 3-4 rounds are too broad and you could go against anything, right? If you're scared of going against Plunder Patrol and you want to have that one tech choice specifically for Plunder Patrol, obviously there's not a tech choice specifically for Plunder Patrol or stun, but there are like just good generic cards like the Chummies, Evenlies, Lightning Storms, Feather Dusters, Anti-Spell, Skill Drain. If you can play those cards, great, because you're gonna end up in a situation where you build for the best decks in the room, you build for those last rounds specifically just to really nail those decks home, but you could play against anything, right? So you gotta be building a side that's generic enough that it takes care of everything, like deck lockdown. Most decks nowadays either special summon, definitely search from the deck no matter what, even stun searches and adds and draws. So learn your side patterns. If you have a situation where you're going against Malice and you're going first, what are you siding in, what are you siding out? If you're going second against Malice, what are you siding in, what are you siding out? If you're going against Mitsurugi Rizal, same thing, what are you siding in, what are you siding out? Are you going first or are you going second? And that'll save you time as well, because if your opponent already knows, okay, well, I'm definitely going second, let me put in my Chummies, Evenlies, Dark Rulers, whatever, it makes it easier for you to just, shuffle your cards up and get the next game started, instead of taking all the time for the side pattern and you're trying to decide, well, if I get more value out of this, because it's not going to change. Like if you look at your side pattern or your side deck and you look at your main deck, you can determine if I'm going first against Mitsurugi Rizal, this is what I want in, this is what I want out. If I'm going second, this is what I want in, this is what I want out. And once you know that, it's just like, okay, I know what cards I'm taking in, I know what cards I'm taking out. You can be done in like 30 seconds, shuffle up real quick, power shuffle, whatever, and you're off to the races again. So those that I just explained will help you more than just someone saying, play DD Crow and DD Crow this out of Mitsurugi Rizal, or play Nib for Malice. It's like, okay, well, I did just fine without either of those. One could argue this is not really a Nib format. I digress. But once you got all of this together, you've got your siding patterns and you've got a decent side deck going. You determine going first, going second, board breakers versus hand traps. You got knowledge of your opponent and the deck that they're playing. Then great, awesome. Now time comes for just more practice, because it's one thing to practice online, right? But it's another thing to practice in person. So I always say, go to locals, interact with people, have fun. And that one-on-one experience of dueling and going the back and forth, sometimes your opponent forgets things or doesn't realize they got something else. And, you can help them at the end of the match, like, hey, you still had this, and, you might get a friend out of it. That's what really this game is about, is, meeting new people, making friends. it's a fun game when it is, although I think some people are too toxic, but I digress. But yeah, practice on Omega, practice on Dueling Book, practice with friends, go to your locals, support your locals, have fun at locals. That'll give you a ton of practice. You know, you're not gonna be nervous going against Mitsurugi Rival, and you're like, okay, I've seen this online a bunch of times, but this is my first time seeing it in person now. And you got like them jitters, or you know, there's so much going on to track. It's a different experience, and I think everyone watching this can admit that playing in person is a different experience versus online. Online, on like Master Duel and everything else, the cards glow, so you know exactly what is live, what's not. If you have an interaction, you don't really need to read your opponent's card. It'll just highlight, this is the interaction you can do, which is Ash Blossom. Cool, I'll Ash Blossom it, why not? So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today. Excuse me. I will make another video, probably sometime this weekend, about some decent tech choices that I think that are just general, not really tailored to specifically meta, just cards that I think anybody can use, some cards that maybe some people forgot about or didn't know about. So that'll be coming around the corner, but yeah, I just wanted to get this video out there, help some of you guys realize that, you know, the YouTubers out there aren't always saying everything. Not saying that they're trash or, you know, they're lying to you guys. You know, they have some helpful information, but excuse me, there's another side to everything, and there's more to it than just that. So I hope this video helped. Let me know if it did. If you guys got any questions, let me know in the comments. But until next time, see you guys later. Peace.